Hello everybody, welcome to this week's Dissecting Design. If the big old brain has included you in, we're going to be taking a look at Psychonauts. This was the first big game from Double Fine Games, of course helmed by Tim Schafer, and is a really great example of how a strong sense of aesthetic and style can really help to elevate a game, and of course make it stand out from its contemporaries. We're going to look over the game tonight and talk a little bit about what it did so uniquely compared to other titles. So I'm going to load things up, get past the intro, and we'll talk about the basic gameplay next. Alright, we're in game now, and we're going to go over the basics of Psychonauts. So, we are playing as Raz, or Rasputin, voiced by Richard Horvitz of Invader Zim fame. We're at a psychic slumber camp, psychic sleeping camp, where we're going to learn how to make use of our psychic powers. And it turns out there's even a lot more than that going on here. Hopefully the up analog stick is a little bit sensitive here, the up controls. Hopefully that won't get me in too much trouble, we'll see what happens. But, to get through this, there's a lot going on. Not only do we have to enter people's minds in order to figure out what's wrong with them, we also discover there's a sinister plot going on to steal the brains of all the students in the camp. So yeah, this is a very typical action game. Now, to start here, we have some basic moves. Again, attack, double jump, all the standards of the genre. It's up to us to explore, looking for all manner of collectibles.
Calling any sentient being in the galaxy Polarisma Australis.
I'll grab that. Oh, here's one of our many students, or members. There's some cute squirrels, aren't they?
Do that. I could never kill everyone. Oh, hi, Raz.
Squirrel trouble?
They're liars and all. Whatever they tell you, it's a lie.
It's never a good sign.
I'll take your word for it. You going to class?
Yeah, I'll meet you up there. As soon as I get these guys to shut up.
Wait, there's more. Every student or every camper is unique as well. Oh. Yep, that's going to be the thumbnail right there, folks. But getting back to things, each level of Psychonauts, and we're going to show them off in a few minutes, is unique. Even though Raz's basic abilities do not change, each level has its own special quirks and abilities in them. One level involves taking place in kind of like almost like a Day of the Dead style world. Another one is a literal board game where we can grow giant to move pieces and then shrink back down to interact. And again, the creativity is really on display in Psychonauts. From the voice acting, to the areas, to even what we're doing here. So let's see. There's also a lot of hidden collectibles to find as well. Slide it down. Don't forget about what's down here. Ooh. And we're going to go into the first brain in a minute. Now the idea is that we're going to rank up, and this will unlock new abilities, as well as ways to modify many of Raz's powers. Climb, man, climb. And yeah, we could spend probably a good 15-20 minutes just in this very first area alone, trying to find all the random collectibles. But to keep things moving along, I'm going to head up, and I'm going to show you how we enter the first level of the game. Now, Psychonauts doesn't have as many worlds in it compared to other 3D platformers. But what it lacks in quantity, it certainly makes up for in quality. And you will see that as soon as we run up here. We'll have to adjust that dead zone, I think, a little bit more in the next part.
Hey, where you going, Maloof?
Shh, I snuck out. That class is a death trap for crazy people. Listen, the coach is strong. At the start of class, he pulls you into his mind, and then there's nothing you can do about it. But once you're in, you can use these smelling salts to sneak out. Take mine. I don't need them anymore. I'm calling my parents to come get me before I get hurt.
Too late!
Mommy! Ah!
Hey, kid! You owe me 5 arrowheads for this week's protection service.
Cough it up, my loser. Or you'll be coughing up bloody tears. Hey, leave him alone.
I heard a rumor you were raised in the circus.
Alright, we're going to skip the cutscene or the dialogue just so we can get into the action. Alright, so you can see all the students just like zoning out here because we're going to enter his mind in a second. This is our love interest.
Why don't you take a picture? It'll last longer.
Whoops. Sorry.
Alright, but it's time to go in.
Son, you will have to relive every bullet-scarred memory of every battle I have ever faced. Won't be pretty. Are you sure you wouldn't rather run around a bit more in the sunshine first?
Oh no, we're going in.
I'm ready, sir.
Well then...
I love these
You're
transitions
late, soldier.
too.
Now get in here and give me 20.
There we go. And Psychonauts' structure takes place both within the level design of the camp, as well as into each individual mine. And we do have to go into everybody in order to beat the game.
So, this is it. The mental world.
It looks like a dentist office.
A mental dentist office.
It's a recruiting office, kids, and I'm here to recruit you for the greatest job in the world.
Alright, we're going to fast forward a little bit more so we can get into things.
That's what I'm talking
But as you can see, they really took the idea. Oh, wait. Boom. Alright. But, getting back to things, as you can see, they really took the idea of going to each character's head and really running with it from an aesthetic standpoint. Each level is completely unique in terms of its aesthetics, as well as what we're going to be doing within it. Now, this is still just level 1, so it's not going to be too complicated.
Hey, my bowels move.
Yeah. That is a figment of his imagination.
Come on, get that figment.
And this is where the other aspect of the upgrades and the ranking up comes into play. This is mental baggage.
We all have emotional
baggage.
Just keep your eyes peeled for a tag that matches. Could be anywhere.
Alright, sure. I'm sure it's right here.
There it is. Unless you'd rather just drop and give me 20 right now.
There you go, buddy. Enjoy. And again, Double Fine has really become famous for the creativity they put into the designs, the characters, and of course the storytelling of their games. So with that emotional baggage handled, that's down there. So the collectibles of each level or each world are fixed. There's only going to be set amount of figments, cobwebs, which are a second part, and then the baggage. Now the vaults are a really good example of the environmental storytelling of Psychonauts.
You hit that ladder hard, son. Show it who's boss.
There we go. The vaults themselves reveal personal information about each character, and it's kind of a way of learning more about them without needing a full-on elaborate cutscene. So down here, there's another And again, we want to pick up all the ranks or all the figments in order to rank up. So, get over here, you. And you can notice the style of the figments as well. And each world features different looking figments, again, to match the personality of that character. And he's just going to keep talking like randomly as we're going.
Fire down below.
Oh. You can take damage and be knocked out of the world. And again, going to just try and fast forward so we can keep on going. Again, more. Oh.
Come on, one nightmare.
Nope.
And if you look, there's some very weird looking flowers there. And that's actually another part of the storytelling that makes sense later on. What's down here? Here's a hidden area. Now, you don't need to collect all the figments, although they will play a role in terms of upgrades and making life easier for you, especially in some of the later levels. Oh.
Mentalis uberalis.
The camera and the jumping can be a little tricky, especially in a dark area like this. I'm having a bit of a hard time spotting my shadow so I can see where we are in relation. But I made it. We're almost at 100 figments. Uh-oh. Don't want to fall. Now, where are we?
Move, move, move!
Some pretty good jumping, don't we? Alright, there's our first rank. And as the game goes on, they will introduce more unlocks for those figments. And there are some that are basically meant for the post-game, because you're not going to be collecting them all through the main course.
You'll have plenty of time to stand around when you're dead.
Now, later worlds introduce more puzzle-solving aspects to them, including the infamous Milkman section. And this is a great example, again, not only of the aesthetics, but how unique each world is that drives progression. Because you want to go into a new level just to see just what is going to happen in it.
You'll have plenty of time to stand around when you're dead.
Alright. So we took a shortcut around, so now I have to return. Now again, some of the figments can be very hard or annoying to get. Like, you basically just have to get yourself almost killed to get them. But we're fine. And yes, there is a live system in this game. So now we're going to head on up. I may raise the brightness up too.
Is your name Joey?
No,
Because I'm gonna call you Slowy Joey.
that's not my name.
What was that, Slowy? I can't hear ya. You're talking too slow.
Nice. But again, every character has a really well-developed personality to them. Even a lot of the ancillary
Less
ones.
waiting, more motivating.
But what I was getting at earlier is that the meat-looking flower is actually another piece of environmental storytelling that occurs near the end of the game. And the writers are really great at putting these little tidbits in to let you know that there's more going on. Especially more going on at a psychic summer camp, no less. So here we have the
Now that kind of
fine.
wall, you can climb it up, down, sideways, whatever way you want. Just get on it, quick, like a monkey.
Hey, slow down, kid. If you pass me around, you make us look bad. And
Oh,
Bobby
wait.
will pound you deaf. Bobby, can you hear me? Where are you?
Watch those mines.
Now here's a little
I'll
mini
blow you up
challenge
like a tin
where you're supposed to
stick.
guide him across the minefield. But to keep things moving along, we're not going to do that. Alright, we made it to the flag. then we move on, or we're going to move on to the second part of this level.
The plane's going down, soldier. Hit that door and Geronimo.
And then
No one told me.
lady abode.
It wants.
And the levels themselves do run the gamut between being a very linear affair with some of the more open-ended ones later on. Oop. Now we're coming to a little whack-a-mole style minigame. You also unlock his ability to do, or we can now use his little ground sneak. And yeah, those two are very excited. Now this level is almost over, and we're going to go through it for this first part of the video. And then we'll fast forward a little bit later, once I have some more of his psychic powers. Oh, quiet you. Don't worry, they'll get theirs in about 15 seconds. Don't hit those babies.
Hey,
There we
great
go.
job, soldier. Now here's your reward.
Boom. Okay, here's our first vault, too.
Most people, they got something to hide. They put the enemies.
Yeah, we know. Get back here, you.
Good. You enjoy that. One of my favorites.
So this is one of his movies. And again, all the vaults are done in this style, as you can see. But as we find more, even more personal ones, we start to get a bigger picture of each character. It's kind of like the precursor to what we saw in the Demon Souls series, with having all the history on the items. So this guy will teleport us around to each area that we come across. Uh-oh. Ow. And we'll also unlock upgrades, too, for our health. And look, there's a little bunny rabbit. Run. Some more baggage. And again, everything in these levels, there's a purpose for it. You may not know it now, but it will make sense as we learn more about these characters. Now let's take out that bunker. First, don't forget to pick that up. I'll grab this fairly quickly. And again, we come back over here. You can see what we've gotten so far. Now the cobwebs require an upgrade that we'll talk about in probably our next part, when we focus a little bit more on the progression of Psychonauts. But again, in the last like 10 to 15 minutes of play, just like with Oddworld, you can see just how much imagination and creativity they put into it. Alley-oop. Raise that flag. There's, I think, 2 more sections in this level. And what's interesting, you want to take note of anything that's not military related for this character, because again, it speaks about his personality. Oop. Back here.
You can grab poles like that and swing on them. It's all about upper body strength, you know?
Get up there. Oh, I meant to do that one, folks. There's another steamer trunk. And again, I'm not going to be focusing on getting 100% here. There we go. I don't know how I just did that and not get hurt.
Hold it right there.
Yeah.
Till then.
Yeah, so we can't do anything with that just yet. But from a platforming standpoint, Psychonauts has a good feel to it. You have a high enough jump that can let you get across most obstacles. You can swing, you can do all this other crazy stuff. The camera does... Oh, messed up there. Camera does a good enough job to try and keep you focused on the action. I also like how falling into a pit doesn't cost you a life until you run out of health. Alright, so let me get up here. It could be a little bit better, but again, I think this game's almost, or even a decade old or more. I did it again, didn't I? It automatically puts you into the swing in some of those spots, and that's what's messing me up. Okay. There we go. Because I'm landing it on the bottom angle. There, that's better. Again, look at that detail in the background.
Onward and upwards.
Games like this, Oddworld, and of course Alice Madness Returns are really good examples, again, of creating a sense of personality to the world. We are just about done. Yeah, thank you. But yeah, there's also a lot of stuff hidden around as well. But again, just to keep us on track, I'm not going to be going for everything.
It's game day, kid.
We are just about done.
Hey, kid. I think I see a silver dollar out there on that rail. Why don't you walk out there a bit and pick it up?
Now, these rail sections do repeat throughout the game, and it actually plays a part, one of the more frustrating parts near the end. And again, you cannot get every one of these things on a single run.
End of the line, sucker! Oh.
I don't think so. Alright, there's one more part to this level, and then we'll fast forward a little bit. Here's our little guy. And we're almost at enough for the first full rank up, meaning we get a new power. And here's some little surrealness here. Again, very inventive level design, and this is still just the first world of the game. Let's hope I don't screw up here. Wait. Sorry, Figgy, we're not interested in you right now. I gotta resist the allure, right, folks? Alright, we are coming to the end. So again, this is where the level is supposed to end, but then look what's over there. What could be right here? Besides the other cobweb.
Yep.
And there's a lot to Psychonauts' story.
Hold it right there, son. Now, just what in the Sam Hill do you think you're doing in there?
I was just looking for a way out.
Oh, sorry about that. Didn't think you'd get to the end so fast. Dang, I didn't think you'd get to the end at all. You surprised me out there, kid. Here, you've earned this. Your first Psychonaut Merit Badge.
There we go. Now we get our psychic powers for real. Trying to get some good screenshots there, too. Oh, I got a really good one. That could be the thumbnail, too. But we're going to fast forward here. So I'm going to cut things.
Way
and
to make us look.
once they're done talking. And we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the advanced options next. Welcome back, everybody. It's been about an hour and a half since the last part of the video. We're now basically into the back half of Psychonauts. And I want to do at least one part here to talk a little bit more about the advanced game design, especially the use of those psychic powers that you can see in the bottom right.
Who do you work for?
But
I'm the guard. I've been fully trained.
but it's time to enter one of the more interesting levels, and that is the Milkman. So here we go.
Yeah! Not another tracking device.
But at this stage in the game, I have access to the bulk of my psychic powers I'm going to be getting access to, and the psychic powers of Psychonauts basically have different degrees of utility to them. We'll show off a few once we enter the world here. And Psychonauts is not a long game if you're just going for the story.
Perfect, isn't it?
Yes.
Almost complete. Just a few missing pieces.
Yes, now, which piece talks about the milkman? The one who opens the asylum gate?
But it's all about the milkman. Can't you see?
Is this like one of those 3D paintings? I can never do those.
No, you just gotta learn to see it like I see it. There's something in the fridge that might help you see the world like I do.
Ooh, sorry, I don't drink. Before noon, I mean.
That little fat kid with the bunny with...
Alright, but now, for this level... I'm just going to skip that cutscene for right now. We get our clairvoyance power. Now, we look over here. These are all the merit badges that I have right now. Marksmanship, shield, levitation, and clairvoyance are required, while telekinesis and pyrokinesis are optional. Now, the game itself gives you varying abilities for use with the combat and advanced puzzle solving. The shield allows you to reflect shots back, while levitation lets me not only create this little ball, but I can use this to get a lot more height. So now with that going, we can see all kinds of craziness.
The milkman's dead? Aw, crud.
Burned up in a department store fire. Didn't you hear? At least that's what the media would have you believe. Is he dead or not? Go to the graveyard.
Alright, thank you, weirdo. But at this point in the game, combat does get a lot more interesting with the ability to shoot enemies, my shield, and just the general enhancements.
Sleeping in a class. Be careful.
Yeah, we know. But as you can see, not only do the mechanics get increased, but we also had some very funky level designs. And like I said in the last part, this is where Psychonauts really excelled, in terms of just giving you a lot of unique situations. Oh, there was a camera in that fountain, if you didn't see it there. But the Milkman's level basically takes place in this very mixed up 50s era conspiracy theory. As you can see, with lots of cameras trying to spot me. This level's a lot more puzzle-oriented than other ones. And you'll see that in a second.
Hello, fellow road crew worker. Welcome to the road crew.
We have government agents who are going to stop us from going in anywhere that we don't belong, unless we look just
No
like them.
pedestrian traffic allowed.
You can see that I'm looking through their eyes.
Working on the road.
They don't seem to mind that I'm floating around doing all other crazy things. But at this point in the game, developers do open up levels. I'll be making use of telekinesis in a later part when I'm battling a version of Napoleon Bonaparte. Now, this is the cobweb duster. This is one of the advanced items you need to pick up to get access to additional areas. Could be in this mysterious fridge. Oh, just help. Take that, books. Now, with that said though, while the game does a really good job of keeping things varied, I think the one somewhat complaint I want to talk about now is that I don't think the game really tests the player as much as it should on the various dynamics of these powers. Making use of shield and telekinesis is very important, especially when you get to the infamous final level, that I'll talk about more in our final thoughts section after this. But for the most part, you can really just mess around with Psychonauts, and the game doesn't make it any easier or harder for you. You can kind of brute force your way through with enough health upgrades and just shooting enemies. Anything else going on here? Nope. But again, the environmental design, general aesthetics was really cool. Oh, there's that crazy thing with the camera perspective. Let me out here. There we go. People in the trash cans, that's always a good sign.
Hey, are you following me?
Everybody's completely paranoid.
Ivory tower. Who are the puppet?
Oh, he somehow came back here. That's not good. Let's bounce back this way. But as I was saying, a lot of the advanced elements of Psychonauts, the use of shields and using telekinesis or pyrokinesis in combat, aren't really explored all that much.
Road crew worker, welcome to the road crew.
There we go, that's better.
Stop. This is a restricted area.
He's trying to arrest me.
I am fixing the telephone lines. This is my job, to work with phone lines.
But as you can see, each world gets its own unique set of rules. There's another level that takes place inside a theater, where we have to fight an evil art critic, and of course, more bosses. And one thing you haven't seen in this spotlight, or in this Dissecting Design, is the fact that there are bosses in Psychonauts. The bosses usually have varying strategies that you can kind of exploit depending upon what powers you know. For instance, I can use my shield to stop an enemy from doing damage to me, or to reflect shots back. Well, how do we do this?
Testing, testing. 1, 2.
Anything in here?
Stop, come with us.
Oh no.
What is the purpose of the goggles? What's in the milk? Who is the milkman? What happened inside that house? Where did you get the red sign?
Gotta be careful, you won't get busted by the feds.
Dangerous conditions.
But we're not going to play through the whole level here. That would definitely take way too long.
Hello, fellow road crew worker.
But
Welcome
again,
to the road crew.
the Psychonauts is a very confident game. The developers knew what they really wanted to make this game out of, and it doesn't feel like anything is really out of place or just added to either pad the game out or to, appease the publisher in any sense. And that's what makes it, I think, the most memorable game from Double Fine. Especially in terms, again, of that combination of aesthetics and design. With a game like Brutal Legend, it certainly got the aesthetics down, but we could argue that some of the gameplay didn't work out all that well.
I am a rainbow squirt. Would you like to buy a box of my delicious rainbow?
I would buy some cookies. Do you have any idea where I could buy some milk for my cookies?
Ah! Creepy man!
But as I was saying, with a game like Brutal Legend, the problem was that the real-time strategy elements kind of distracted from the open world and third-person combat. With Psychonauts, nothing really feels out of place. And again, we'll talk more about the infamous final level in our next part. But as you can see, as we're exploring around, they know how to use those plungers, don't
This
they?
job is unsavory, but it must be performed by someone.
As you can see, we're getting upgrades now. And that was another big point. The whole upgrade system in Psychonauts really doesn't get explored all that much in this game. What are
I'm
you
on the
doing?
road crew.
Most pleasant
This is my
sewers can
stop
be
sign.
found in Paris, France.
We'll just have to walk around them there. And again, it's kind of hard. I think that's one of the more interesting aspects of Psychonauts compared to games like Mario and other third-person platformers or action-adventure games. That Psychonauts never really explores its advanced mechanics. Again, there's no real tests. Enemies, in terms of the basic kind, don't really push you to use your other abilities. You can just smack them with your basic attack and you will usually win the fight. You may take more health damage, but you won't exactly be tested in the same way as other platformers, where if you don't make use of a certain ability, you're not going to beat them. Again, as we continue to explore this crazy neighborhood, you can just see how weird things are getting. Oh, there's a garden can. Can we get in here? Nope, doesn't look like it. There's a extra life. And it would have been interesting to see kind of like them going for like a post-game option with having the advanced mechanics and psi upgrades matter. The only thing you really get for getting, I think, 100% is a new cutscene. But the game in terms of gameplay, it ends once you beat the final level. And it is definitely hard to talk, play, and admire all this craziness at the same time. I'll take that. Anything going on in here? The arrowheads have a purpose in the first part of the game to unlock the cobweb duster and the dowsing rod, that lets you get more of them, but it does eventually go away. Oh look, I think we found the graveyard. But can I get in? Dun dun. This is not a good game to play if you get vertigo either.
I do not know whether to remarry or to remain loyal to my loved one.
Oh, that's good to know.
I wish my loved one had remembered to indicate me as the beneficiary of his...
So we have a watering can, but we need to find out who has that.
The sewer carries human waste.
Thank you. That's really good to know.
This material's sewer water is often highly radioactive.
I don't know what he's doing.
I can listen to any phone conversation that I want, but do not because of my sense of stop. This is a restricted...
Oh, no, we need a watering. Will this work? Nope.
This is a restricted area. Climb telephone poles.
And there's like a small stealth element on this level, but again, nothing too out of the way. We'll get those last big figments to get to rank 32, and then we'll wrap it up. They're still talking. Oh, and you can bet that that levitation ability is used for speedrunning this
That
game.
is a fine watering can. May I ask how much you paid
I
for
am
it?
making a pie.
Come with us.
Oh, that's fine. But with that said, I'm gonna head back to the main menu,
Though I
get a
have
drink because my
some
voice is
excellent
dying, and I'll discuss my
respect
final
because
thoughts
I
and that
provide
level
service.
next. When it comes to wrapping up on Psychonauts, I definitely can't end without discussing the final level, the Meat Circus. And if I had more time to play this, or if we could do a Let's Play of it on the channel, we would explore things further from the gameplay perspective. But for a lot of people who played Psychonauts, they really hated the last stage. And it's very interesting about why that is. I think there's definitely a lesson here in terms of effective pacing and progression from a level design standpoint. As I said, Psychonauts from a level gameplay perspective, it doesn't really change or get that much harder from the first level to the second to last level. Again, as long as you can make use of telekinesis and can hit enemies with your basic attack, you are mostly good. The bosses do mix things up slightly, but general gameplay doesn't really test the player. That is exception until you get to the Meat Circus. The Meat Circus level is built on 4 key areas. You have an escort mission, the first part, with infinitely respawning enemies. You have a rail ride that has a lot of pits that you can fall into. There's a race while you're balancing on little poles and beams while water is rising up, and then you have the actual final boss. And each one of these sections takes the Psychonauts basic gameplay and pushes it as hard as Double Fine was basically comfortable in doing given their design. And for a lot of people, I think this came as a big shock. It's kind of like coasting through a class because it's easy, to then find out that the final exam is completely different, or you are never really told what is on that final test. And for people who weren't used to the advanced platforming and use of the powers, the Meat Circus is just a brick wall, or I guess a psychic brick wall, at the end of a relatively tame game. From the video that you saw so far, you notice that we really weren't dying all that much. You can fall into pits as many times as you want and you won't lose lives as long as you have health. Enemies have basic attack patterns. There's no crazy death situations, no mimics for Dark Souls fans. It's kept for almost like 80 to 90% of the game to be on the easy side of things. And then the Meat Circus happens, and it just, for people who weren't prepared for it, they're going to be in for a world of hurt. And it's kind of like the game expected you to explore more of the levels, getting the advanced figments, getting those additional merit badges and upgrades, to then make use of that knowledge for the Meat Circus level. But if you didn't do that, there was no other way to get around it. Now, I'm curious, for you watching this right now, what did you think of the Meat Circus level if you did play the game all the way through? For myself, I found it to be relatively easy. I got stuck at one part, and that was the rail section. But other than that, it just didn't really bother me. But again, you're talking to someone who has played many a platformer. And I think for people who were coming to this with the story focus, they were going to have trouble. One last complaint again, the boss battles, I would have liked to have seen again more advanced elements in Psychonauts, making use of the different powers like telekinesis and especially pyrokinesis. That doesn't really get all that much use outside of a few select sections. The final boss does allow for some variability in terms of what merit badges you can use, but again, the game doesn't exactly train the player. There are a few advanced enemies like the nightmares, but again, I think if they were going to go for the Meat Circus, I would have liked to maybe have seen a level beforehand that was going to lead up in terms of difficulty and complexity, just to ease the player in. But with that said though, Psychonauts is still an amazing game. It holds up well in terms of design, and is a perfect example of how aesthetics and design can be married to create a experience that's greater than the sum of its parts. I mean, a psychic somewhere camp where you jump into people's heads is not a concept we see a lot of people clone these days. And it did put Double Fine on the map. And we could easily do a Dissecting Design on any one of their other games. We did a game of repute on Space Base DF9. But I think, to my money, Psychonauts still remains as the best example of what Double Fine can do. Taking a extraordinary story and plot, and combine that with game mechanics that serve it. And like I said in the last part, this is a very competent game. They could have added in more levels and repeat content, but it would have distracted from the game. Psychonauts does what it was set to do, no more, no less, and it wraps up with a pretty good ending, which of course set up for that sequel that maybe we'll get at some point. I know they're currently working on it after their FIG campaign. But, like I said, if you guys want to see more of it, we could certainly do a Let's Play while we're waiting for more AAA games or major titles to be released. And I really did like this one. If you've never played it, it does hold up well, like I said, so be sure to check it out. I think it's on just about every platform now. I'm playing it on the PC or Steam version. But with that said, thank you so much for watching this week's Dissecting Design. If you'd like to suggest a game for me to look at in the future, let me know in the comments below. But check back usually each Monday for a new video looking at a game specifically, and daily discussions on game design here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games. So say goodbye to this big old floating brain, and I will see you all next time. Take care. Before we get to the credits, I just want to give a quick shout out to the fans and supporters over on patreon.com/gwblazer. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Check back around 10 Eastern for regular streaming. If you'd like to suggest games for me to cover or topics to talk about, let me know in the comments below. For a collection of my writings as well as weekly podcasts on design, check out game-wisdom.com. To support the Game Wisdom Patreon, you can find us on there on patreon.com/gwblazer. $1 will get you into our private Discord channel where we talk game topics and more. $5 will get you voting privileges for any major event, including the Saturday Night Grab Bag, Patreon-funded goals, and more. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you enjoy more videos here on the Game Wisdom YouTube channel.